Welcome to The Business Strategist, the show for CEOs and founders ready to scale fast, lead smarter, and build a business that doesn't rely on them. I'm Adam Strong, award-winning strategist, former elite athlete, international speaker, and 3 times best-selling author. After 3 decades in business, I know exactly what it takes to grow, scale, and exit with impact. Each week, I dive into real conversations with industry experts, bold entrepreneurs, and clients navigating the uphill struggles of business, giving you the tools and the strategies to create more profit, more freedom, and more impact. Let's get into it.
America leads the world in medicine development. It matters. We get new medicines first, nearly 3 years faster. 5 million Americans go to work because we make medicines here at home. And not relying on other countries keeps us safe. But China is racing to overtake us. Will we let them, or will we choose to stay ahead? When America leads, America cures. Let's tell Washington to keep us in the lead.
Learn how at americacures.com. Paid for by pharma.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's podcast with myself, Adam Strong. I am super excited about today because I'm going to be catching up with my really good friend, Mr. Adam Haluhan, all the way from Australia. And, you know, I was just actually speaking to Adam in the backstages. It's been a good 4 years since we jammed. And it's just crazy just how time flies by. So what's today's episode all about? Well, today, Adam very much specializes in the LinkedIn game, LinkedIn strategies, but not just about LinkedIn strategies. We're going to talk about how LinkedIn's evolved. We're going to talk about how you can capitalize on LinkedIn, but more importantly, how we can generate more leads and create great content, which is what I call non-AI generated. Now, what I'm going to do with Adam is we're going to be really kind of going down some different avenues today. And we're going to be exploring some very different topics than where we talked about back 4 years ago. And it's just really interesting how a platform like LinkedIn has really evolved over the last 6 to 12 months. And I really kind of want you to pay attention more than anything else. Make sure you got a notebook and pen handy because we're going to be covering a lot of groundwork. And it's going to be very insightful, very opinionated led. But also, Adam's going to be sharing some great things because being a LinkedIn strategist, he's going to be able to share some of the big things that's happening in the LinkedIn world because that's what he does. Anyway, Adam, welcome to the show.
It's an absolute pleasure to be here again, my friend. I can't believe it's been 4 years.
Mate, I don't know where the time's flown by. I really don't. And but how are you doing anyway?
I'm well, doing really well, and I've been traveling around the world a lot, as you know, with speaking about LinkedIn at events and things around the world, which is
absolutely
what I love doing. So no complaints.
Absolutely. Now, it's really interesting. So many years ago, guys, not only was Adam part of a business accelerator that we both did in 2 different countries, because that's when it was run by. Adam runs one of the largest webinars on LinkedIn training in the world. It does it around 5 times a year, which will give you guys some details. It's free. It's a free training. We'll give you some details to that webinar at the very end. But honestly, that's where we kind of really clicked and discovered each other because I just felt like there were some really good golden nuggets within that webinar. And, you know, it's just short, sharp, sweet, concise, and it was just really on point. So for you guys as well, by the way, if you don't know who Adam is, make sure that you check out his LinkedIn profile, which we'll put in the show description notes, by the way. But also, Adam has released 4 books. He's an international bestseller. And his most recent one, by the way, is called The Remote Team's Blueprint, which is nothing to do with LinkedIn, but actually very much on point when it comes to transitioning from, you know, the solopreneur mindset to kind of transitional leader. So listen, I mean, we've got a lot to cover, buddy. We're going to be going through some really interesting topics and stuff like that. So cut through the fluff and let's get straight to the point. Now, one thing that I've observed, and I'm sure that you've observed, and maybe some of your clients observed, LinkedIn, love LinkedIn. Like, it's a playground for me. It's a playground for you. We're on there on a daily basis. But one thing that has caught my attention is that impressions are down, engagement is down, visibility is down, reach is down. And so I guess my first opening question to you, Adam, is organic dead? Like organic reach really dead? Or do you feel like it's evolving into something else?
But let me kind of give you my best abbreviated version of what what might be going on there. So
Definitely.
So the first thing is, as you know, you and I have discussed this many times, LinkedIn's not a level playing field. It's all about how we individually use the platform as to, it's why you can see there's people who get incredible traction, a couple of local people in the UK that, I could name would be like Daniel Priestley, Stephen Bartlett, see these guys get incredible traction, incredible impressions, incredible engagement. And in many circumstances, they kind of break the rules of what's deemed to be the right thing to do. So this is what I mean by it's not a level playing field. It depends on the level of interaction you generate on the platform. And so the big takeaway for everyone, and I would say, is not to be too concerned about the level of impressions and engagement, but realistically, it's all about being true to what you do and how you go about what you do, and make sure that you're creating content. LinkedIn is 100% a content-driven platform now. The old days of just connecting with people and pitching them in messages and things are well and truly dead. However, I wouldn't say organic reach is dead. It's not. It is harder than what it used to be. There's a huge difference now between someone that has a free LinkedIn account and anyone that has sort of the premium level accounts. So what I'd first say is, if you want to, it's somewhat a pay to play now, albeit not at the level of other platforms. But you cannot do anything of any value on a free account anymore. You have to at least stump up and pay for the premium subscriptions. Now, depending on where you are in the world, that's it's going to vary in price, but and there's multiple different premiums. The only one really worth having is Sales Navigator, and just to keep a simple sort of conversion price for everyone, it's probably somewhere in the range of $80 a month to access that. Convert that to your local currency. That's roughly what it'll be. But yeah, the really key thing is that, and I know we're going to get into this in depth today, but there's a lot of AI tech that's going on in the background. There's AI tech that LinkedIn uses internally and externally, and of course there's the ways we all use it, good or bad. There's three different levels of AI we really need to cover, but it is determining to a large degree what levels of engagement and impressions and things that you get. And then overarching all of that is just the reality that LinkedIn is moving more and more towards a paid platform. So yes, they are reducing organic reach and things like that for the high majority of people, but they're also introducing these new forms of paid media that it's going to be, and I've been saying for quite some time now that 2025 is I call it the pivotal year on LinkedIn. It's the year where what you could do completely free is now dead, and we're in this new transition into paid. Even just to be on the platform, you got to pay for a monthly subscription. It's moving towards where if you really want to get heavy traction, you're going to have to put a little bit of budget to the things that you're doing, and it's not really a bad thing. It's we've got to always keep in mind that at the end of the day, LinkedIn is a business, and they're there to make money. We all know, Microsoft paid the incredible sum of $26 billion for LinkedIn.
Just a small bit of change.
Yeah, a little bit, and they want their money back, and we're going to give it to them. So whether we like it or not.
Yeah, I think you made some really good points, actually. I remember probably one of our first conversations around 4 or 5 years ago when we did some collaborations together, and one of our conversations was about the fact that there was so many features and benefits and I suppose functionality off of a free platform, if you want to call it that, compared to premium. And our big debate was, should you go for premium? And your answer was absolutely not. And it's just now really interesting how, as you had rightly pointed out, so that transition is over the last 3 or 4 years, how things have changed, where you're kind of forced to needing to have a pay to play platform if you want the quality And there's something really interesting as well. You talked about Dan Priestley and Stephen Bartlett. And what's really interesting, I feel like LinkedIn is re-favoritizing specific types of niche types of content. And what's really interesting about this is I have a really good, one of my clients actually, he's an IT consultant. And he talks about everything jargony, IT, things that I don't really understand. But LinkedIn loves it. Like LinkedIn absolutely loves it because there aren't many people within his specific niche that are talking about IT related, like content. And so they favoritize his, and he doesn't have the biggest following in the world, maybe around 5,000, 5,000 connections or whatever. So it's not like the biggest, but it's just really interesting to see how, you've got a flooded market. Say we take your profession in the world of LinkedIn strategy, where everyone's talking about LinkedIn strategy, right? Maybe the reach isn't as big compared to someone like his, who's kind of more niche down. Have you found that with regards to working with some of your clients?
100%, and that's the holy grail of your content strategy is you need to niche down as hard as you can. And it's often a difficult conversation to have with clients or potential clients, more to the point, because they go, oh, but I do all these different things. And I said, yeah, but the old saying, if you try to appeal to everyone, you appeal to no one. So and you are 100% right, what LinkedIn loves, now the niches can be as innocuous as you could come up with. The key thing is you need to actually have some expertise within that niche, because you have to be able to talk as a real authority in that niche. And that's what LinkedIn will pick up on, because keeping in mind, there's 1 billion people plus on the platform now, and there's thousands and thousands of different levels of interest. So when you say that LinkedIn favors some types of content, it's not necessarily they favor IT over LinkedIn content or whatever. What they favor is that real niching down. And if you look at like my content as an example, yeah, okay, you could say the overarching topic is LinkedIn, but really what we want to really talk about is just using LinkedIn for lead generation or personal branding. And there's many, many different things you could use LinkedIn for, like recruitment and HR and many, many other sort of things that it's known for. And we stay out of all of that because we know that you just have to stay very much in this niche. Even down to, as you just mentioned, a new book out, which is obviously supports a new program that we have, and you will never see me talk about it on LinkedIn. People go, why do you have this whole other arm of your business and you never talk about it? And how does that work? And I said, well, it works because if I did do that, I'm now going out of my niche, and LinkedIn won't favor that. Having said that, if you went and had a look at Julie on our team's profile, her profile is all about that program, and all her content's about it. All the people she connects with are the type of people that would be interested in it, and so her niche is very much that secondary part of of what we do, and that's what I mean by you've got to be incredibly niched to to get the attention of the algorithm, so to speak.
It's really interesting you bring this up, because what you're talking about is something very, very specific, which is staying in your lane. And I mean, this is kind of the classic entrepreneurial mindset of I'm multi-skilled, I'm multi-talented, I've got lots of things to offer the world. And they basically post stuff on LinkedIn, which is very much, should we say, confusing. And that's why they don't really get so much traction. As we're on kind of the content marketing side of stuff, I feel like, and I think that I was probably one of them at the very beginning, where I was just posting and I was spraying out content in the hope that I would gain some traction, which all I was really gaining was crickets. What do you think there when it comes to content creation, and people that are listening in right now that have maybe tried a bit of content or posting out there, they haven't gained any traction, they're feeling a little bit sorry for themselves, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, so don't despair. You're in the you're in the company of millions and millions of people. However, it's also easily fixed. It's just a matter of knowing the rules of the game, as I like to call it. And where that actually starts, Adam, is your profile. So again, remember, we're going to talk about AI in a little while, but what really happens is that your profile needs to be optimized all around this niche. So again, as you said, go and have a look at my profile, and you can see it. It talks all about what we're talking about here, and that's the first thing. So the algorithms kind of look at your profile, go, what are you known for? What are you trying to be sort of positioned as an expert for? And then if you start posting content that's contrary to what your profile says, then it's doing this back check and going, no, doesn't match. So therefore, let that die out of the feed. The game is won by profile being highly optimized. As you said, a lot of entrepreneurs are multi-skilled and want to let the world know about all the things they do. And it's not to say you can't do other things on other platforms or other forms of marketing, but you've got to just double down on LinkedIn as just one thing. There's the old saying, one message, one call to action. The thing is with LinkedIn, it has to be that just all the time. It can never be a separate post. It can never be a separate message. It can never be a separate call to action. So that's how the game's won long term. And every time you go left of center, so to speak, on that content that doesn't align with what your LinkedIn believes your audience is. And this is the thing with those impressions, that when you use the example of your client who's in IT, this is one of the good things when you get this right. You don't have to have, it's no longer, it used to be, but it's no longer he or she who has the most connections gets the most impressions. I've seen people with 1,000 connections get 10 times the visibility that I get with 30,000, which is the maximum you can have. And that's because what happens is LinkedIn just shows that in that lane, like they know all the people who are interested in IT and whatever. So even though he only has 5,000 connections, you go, well, how the heck is he getting 10, 20,000? I don't know what he's getting, but how's he getting these massive amounts of impressions on his content when he doesn't even have that many followers? It's because, he's probably staying very true to that niche, and LinkedIn's going, great, we love this. Now, we don't care whether he's connected or not. We know all the people in the world that like that type of stuff, and we're just going to show it to them.
I remember when we were exchanging voice messages last year, and you bring up a really valid point here, actually. So do you remember last year I got awarded the top voice, like January or something like that, and you messaged me straight away like, how in the hell did you get this top voice? You've got way less connections than I have. And I think it's probably, well, I don't know when you got your top voice, but I think it's taken you quite some time to get it, didn't it?
Well, yeah, I got it last year as well, but I've been on the platform probably longer than most. But I've actually got a disadvantage in that space, because it's very rare for them to give top voice to people who talk about LinkedIn. It's only quite recent that they've changed that. Yeah. So, and which is understandable, really, for two reasons. One, as you know, there's a lot of overnight experts, portraying to be new LinkedIn experts, and which is not to say that they don't know anything. I'm sure they know something, but it's not an uncrowded space. And some people say, kind of like, well, shooting fish in a barrel to be talking about how to use LinkedIn on LinkedIn. So there is that. Whereas yours, you've got a really good niche, that a lot of businesses are interested in, and you were doing enough right to get the attention. Keeping in mind that there's only 300, a billion people on the platform. Only 300 a year are awarded that top voice badge.
Is it really that little? Wow, I didn't realize it was so few. That's crazy.
Yeah, so it's pretty hard.
Wow. That is pretty cool. Well, I feel super privileged now that we both got it as well. So that's kind of cool. And so there's no kind of bad blood on the show today, ladies and gents, by the way, because Adam's now got his top voice, even though I got it last year. Anyway, interestingly enough, I have seen regular on your feed, and you talk about this a lot on your feed. And normally you'll do it as a poll or some sort of question or whatever it is. And it's always around what types of content have you found the most effective when it comes to visibility, especially with your clients? And I know that we were going to have a conversation about this offline, but let's just do it now. What have you found particularly more favorable on the platform for your clients, maybe for yourself? What have you found for you? And let's compare notes here, Adam.
Yeah, it's a great topic, and probably not going to so much like the answer. But the reality is that, different types of content work for different people. So, and you may have seen, a post I did very recently, meaning like last week, talking about whether or not you should put images on your posts. And there's a ton of people that have shared their experience and very wide variety of responses. And whilst mostly I'm talking about the use of innocuous images, meaning that there's this kind of wave lately of people just posting an image of themselves sitting in a cafe or walking over a bridge or whatever the heck it might be, that has no correlation to the subject matter of the content. And when you often ask these people, why are you doing that? And they say, oh, well, I just thought that they give me three answers. One, someone told me to. Two, it's personal branding. I need to be seen as in all of my content. Or three, because I get lots of traction on the images. So, but interestingly enough, what I find, and I find that with we get to track a lot of content from a lot of different content creators because we have access to their accounts and things like that. And the very high majority of people actually get less traction on images than actually people who do get traction on images. The ones who say they do, when they really don't, are just not testing and measuring. They're just doing it all the time and saying, oh, well, I get good outcomes with it. So the reality here is what you need to do as each individual person is try everything. Try videos, try polls, images, content, posts with no images, newsletters, document posts, all the different types. Because what at the end of the day matters is what your audience likes. And that's the thing. LinkedIn is, showing, they're rewarding the content that your audience engages on. And interestingly enough for me, what that is just standard text-based posts with no images, nothing else. Number two is newsletters, and number three is video. But I could give you lots and lots of examples where it's the reverse of that. People who get massive traction just on video content, massive traction on image-based content, whatever it is. So it's really a matter of test and measure. And here's the part where you won't like, or at least your audience won't like, is that to really gauge that properly, it's probably a 4 to 6 month process to post enough content and truly test and measure it properly to go, I've got enough data now to say I know what I'm talking about. So herein lies the problem, is that there's plenty of people talking about stuff on LinkedIn about saying, hey, I do this and this is the outcome I get, therefore you should too. And that's the problem, is that they've just got such a narrow data set of one account, which has got no correlation to what millions and millions of accounts have. And so we test and measure somewhere around 500 different posts every single month across multiple different content creators, multiple industries, multiple countries. And what we find is there's no correlation really of anything. It all comes down to what really works for each individual, and therefore the only true litmus test is to test and measure.
Hey guys, I just wanted to take this opportunity to make you aware of a brand new tool that we've just created called the Exit Readiness Assessment. Now, it is for founders and CEOs that are looking to exit from their business operations. Now, it doesn't matter even if you're not looking to exit right now, I would highly recommend to go and take the assessment straight away. It helps you to identify areas in your business that you need to work on to help you towards that exit strategy. And at the end of it, you get a personalized report on some of the areas that you're doing particularly well in and some of the areas that you need to make some improvements to. Make sure you head over to readytoexit.scoreapp.com. That's readytoexit.scoreapp.com. Enjoy. Well, that's fascinating. That really is fascinating. 2 points. Point number one is when you said like your biggest thing for you is just text-based with no photos and images. I thought that was quite fascinating because for me, it's quite the opposite. But really interestingly enough though, and you're absolutely bang on the money when it comes to a 4 to 6 week, collecting the data, strategizing, finding your feet, what gains traction, what doesn't gain traction. But then there's this kind of like in my thoughts, you've got that, but then you've got, how does one determine the quality of someone's content? Because again, we talk about this quality over quantity all day long. And so for me, in terms of like, and it's probably the same for some of your clients, text with images work really, really well for me. And then it's kind of, then we get a little bit on the short form video, like videos under a minute type of thing. And that's about it. Tried polls, tried, some other bits and pieces, and they just don't gain the same traction. But my other point in being is I'm a big believer of looking at what other content creators do that have bigger followings to see what's that. And you made a really good point, actually. I'm not a big believer of saying just because Laura Acosta has got 300,000 followers, she's doing this and this must be the right way. It's kind of what you're saying really is, no, we've got to experiment ourselves and find what works for us. Is that what you're saying?
And I hate to burst your bubble on this one, mate, but the worst thing you can do is actually follow someone and say, well, they're getting really good traction, therefore that's the way. It's just the way for them, which does not necessarily mean it'll be the way for you or for me or for anyone else. And, I've seen this again, because I see it, a number of sort of influencer level people doing it, and a lot of people jumping on the bandwagon where they write their post about a good topic. It's nice niche. It's talking about the problems and pain points that people have. Then at the end of the post, say something like, "Oh, by the way, I also run, I've got this webinar on," and give the details to that. And now the thing is that there's some influencers that can do that. I said it's not a level playing field. There are some Daniel Priestley, great example. He can get away with it all day long. Yep. And then people see Daniel doing and go, oh, that must be the way. Now we've tracked it. We know certain people that have, because, they follow Daniel, started doing what he's doing, and we've tracked their impressions and engagement and outcomes, and it's just going down and down and down and
Isn't
down.
that interesting? Oh, wow.
And they say, why is that? And I said, stop doing that. And, but Daniel does it. And, that doesn't mean anything.
But then,
yeah, exactly that. So what generally happens is people study the conversion strategy, meaning what's the thing that they think makes people take a next step.
Yeah.
And they forget about the rest of the, what's going on. So that you're exactly right. What you should forget about the conversion part of the process. Again, that needs to be kind of designed for each person individually, because all different audiences will take the next steps in different ways. And so just because, again, as you said, just because it works for this person doesn't mean it'll work for that person, because their audience is completely different. And in a simple analogy of that is, if your market are the CEOs of the FTSE 1000, there's no way you're going to get those people to come on a webinar. Yet for this other audience, like me, I can get 2,000 people to register for every webinar I do. It's because my audience will take that next step that way. Your audience in that example will not. So, but yes, long-winded way of saying, yes, study the masters, so to speak, but more so in how they create conversation than worrying about how they create conversion.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I used to be so vulnerable point here, ladies and gents, by the way, for you listening in. I used to be addicted to looking at the metrics, and I think that to the point where you need something to measure your results based on the content that you're creating, right? So do you think that using the metrics is a good way to, you talked about conversion there, and I guess we all have our different ideologies of what we want our content to do in terms of the results we want it to deliver. Do you think that using the metrics is a good way to measure the transformational results? What do you do with your clients to say, okay, well, we're going to put this type of content strategy in place, but what are we measuring it against? What is the optimal here?
Yeah, great point. So one, the metrics are better than they've ever been. That's one of the things when you have a premium account, the metrics you have now or the visibility you have now are really light years ahead of where it used to be.
Nice.
However, you can go down, like you said, you can get really, death by analysis on things. Realistically, what you want to be seeing, what the metrics we really look at, now we don't get too bogged down in impressions and, comments and things like that. We look for how aligned are the people viewing the content to your target market. And these are metrics they give you really well. It'll say they're the people looking at your content are based in these locations, and they're in these type of roles, and they're in these type of industries. And the holy grail is to make sure that those metrics keep improving, and how you do that is that, niching to that LinkedIn's showing it to the right people. That's the most important metric. Now, also, these things keep moving. Here's an interesting one. I'm sure you'll find different to what it used to be. Is we used to say, look at your posts after like 2-3 days, because that's about how long a post would live in the feed, and you could have a look at your metrics at that point, and you've got a good guide as to how that piece of content went. Reality is now, and you'll see this when I tell you this, you cannot unsee it. You'll notice it as soon. I tell you what's going to happen as soon as we finish this session. You're going to jump on LinkedIn and go and look for it. You look in your feed, and I guarantee you'll start to see, if you look at the date of all the stuff coming in your feed, there's stuff in there that's now 2 and 3 weeks old, from people you follow, people that you engage with, and things like that. So under the right circumstances, your posts are living in the feeds for probably up to 3 weeks. It's just getting shown to different people at different times. And therefore, you really can't judge your metric or your analytics in any way, anything less than 3 weeks after the post has been posted. Otherwise, you're missing, a whole bunch of data that's going to come in
So
there.
are you saying then basically they're kind of archiving it for a longer period of time? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So not really archiving, but they know when people are active at different in different locations. You might have a global audience. The days of again, it depends on the business. Like if you've got an audience that's all based in London, and you don't do anything with anyone anywhere else in the world, well, all the views outside of London are just all a waste. If you have a global audience, then it's a very different. We're more and more becoming a global, community. But time zones and things are crazy. So your content's starting to show up in the feeds of people at the times and days and things where they're active. And there's other algorithms in play called dwell time. Dwell time sort of watches when you stop and look at a piece of content, things like that. So you might find that piece of content's been in your feed before. You just didn't stop on it and look at it, but they know it's content you're probably interested in. So they keep showing it to you till you look at it.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
It was something that I was going to bring up actually, because, I wake up in the morning, right? And I wouldn't say I'd turn my phone on straight away, but 30 minutes after, and I go to my LinkedIn and you'll see all these notifications, right? And I'm like, what the hell? I created this video like 2-3 weeks ago and I'm getting reactions still on it, right? That didn't happen before, by the way. That has never happened. And I'm like, that's really interesting. So I absolutely would 100% agree with what you're saying, because it's already happening on my feed. Even if I'm not getting, even over the weekend, there was a couple of short form videos on there and some stuff like that, a couple of comments, but mainly some reactions and whatever it is. I'm like, that's interesting. Never seen that before. But, and then obviously, you get, it's like a snowball effect, so you get kind of more eyeballs on that. Do you also look at things like search appearances and profile views as kind of like metrics as well?
Yeah, 100%. So that again, what you really want, when we talk about conversion, again, one of the biggest mistakes is a lot of people are trying to use their content to be the conversion methodology. The reality is what's going to work, and we've given the exceptions to the rule today. For some people, it does work, but for the very, very, very high majority, as soon as you kind of make it a post about people taking the next step, or an ad that looks like marketing, then you're going to get smashed by the algorithms. So really, the best thing you use your content for is to position yourself as the subject matter expert. Now, the other thing is you'll notice that, if you've got a premium account, there's a link on the top of every single post that can take people to wherever you want to take them. So, you take them to, your website or things like that. What I do is I take them to something that's actually on my profile. So they have to go back and view my profile. So my profile views are always in the thousands, which is what you want, because it's your profile that tells them all about what you do and what you stand for and what next steps look like and stuff like that. And also, of course, there's other strategies that we use that get people to take those next steps, but never is it in the content itself.
That's fascinating, mate. I love that little trick, by the way, and I hope that you guys that are listening in have made some good notes there, because that is a great little golden nugget, or should we say, a little shortcut. Because I think Adam's really highlighted a really good point there. Getting more eyeballs on your profile, because effectively it kind of goes back to 0 moments of truth, which is kind of like the touch points. They say between 11 or 12 touch points, it just increases those touch points at much faster rate. So good point, like that. We spoke about this offline, and I really kind of want to talk about this, and it is very, very recent, and I think I'm really struggling right now, mate, to really see really good quality content on the LinkedIn profile platform itself. And I think it's probably because there's a lot of, we're going to talk about this now. We've got a lot more AI generated content on there. We've got just the way the world is right now, with so many political views and religious views out there, which is, again, something that we didn't see so much maybe 3-4 years ago. And in fairness, a lot of AI generated content, which has not really which has got zero soul to it, by the way, which is utter bollocks, and which has no value whatsoever to the reader. What advice do you have for those in a niche or new to creating content on LinkedIn? Number one, how can they differentiate themselves between all of that noise that's out there, right, and creating really good high quality content? Is there a particular structure that you follow? I know, for example, if we take my example, having really good attention grabbing hooks really works really, really well. What have you found works, and how can we differentiate that between each other?
Yeah, it's it's the $1 million question, isn't it? And you're right. There's a lot of terrible content that flows there. First, what I first say about that, Adam, is that you have the ability to train your feed. So if when people say to me, I'm not seeing a lot of good content, it's because you're just accepting whatever LinkedIn shows you. If you look at every single post, top right corner, there's 3 little dots. So what you need to do for a period of time is look at the content that's coming on your feed. I'm not saying you have to spend hours and hours on this, but every day, first go on there. If you just spent 5 minutes, click on every post you see and go, I like this, I don't like this, I like this, I don't like this, this is rubbish. It's training the algorithm to show you what you do and don't like. So I don't see what you see, because I've trained my feed to show me exactly what I want to see.
Sure.
And I'm not saying, now, one thing, you cannot take out the ads. You're going to get those regardless. And they're all targeted to each individual on different parameters. But then we come back then to the AI kind of question on the content. The first, here's an interesting thing, that it doesn't actually matter whether it's actually created by AI or not. There is now a perception that if you use a lot of emojis or M dashes in your content, that it was written by AI, whether it was or not. So, if you think you've been clever by putting them there, I guarantee you, people are considering your content to be AI driven if there's that there. So, step one, just take them out. Get rid of the M dashes, get rid of the massive amount of exclamation marks, and get rid of all the emojis. The second then things comes down to, does this look, smell, and feel like it's been written by AI? And we all know that standard AI has a framework it uses, and it's quite detectable to anyone these days. So I'm not saying don't use AI for content creation. 100% you should, but you use it for like ideation. What's the topics I'm going to talk about? Yes, you can do a first draft on your content piece, but then you've got to go and properly edit it and do the work to make it sound like you as you as find that there's also, if you are doing some video content, and you should be, is then people get to really know what you talk like and sound like and come across as. And if there's all of a sudden you've got this written content that sounds like a completely different person, then there's this disconnect, mismatch there happening as well. So yeah, by all means use AI, but you can't use it if you're using it to just come up with it and you post whatever it puts out. It's getting more and more detectable. Use it in the right way and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
But I just call it lazy content these days.
So true. So absolutely bang on the money. And we'll talk about AI a little bit more in a second. I was having an interesting conversation with a lady in the recruitment industry, but believe it or not, she creates really good content. And I said, how's your LinkedIn journey going so far? It's just a casual conversation. And she kind of got into why she was so frustrated. And what we boiled it down to was the fact that she was trying to create content based on what she thought the algorithm was doing, or the algorithm game, right? You've heard this one before, right? So let's just address this, because I think it really does need really addressing. Do we need to create content for the algorithm, Adam?
Well, I'd say 100% yes, Adam, as long as you know what the algorithm is or what it's doing. And what
Exactly my point.
Guarantee you 99.9% of us don't.
Exactly.
I've never even met anyone at LinkedIn who could tell you exactly what the algorithm is doing at any given point in time. So look, there's some underlying algorithm things that we all know about, or a lot of us know about, like as I said, like the way you view content when you're scrolling through your feeds and things like that. So the reality is, like you said before, it's kind of like copywriting 101. You got to have a strong opening line, keeping in mind that all content's truncated. So you only see the first maybe 3 lines of the content, and then it says see more. So, and if someone's going to actually view your content, they have to click the see more. So, yes, 100% that first part of the algorithm is all around you getting people to click see more. Now, that doesn't mean to say use clickbait type content. 100% no. There's nothing worse than if, you use a clickbait headline and then it goes off in a different tangent. You'll lose your audience very quickly. But yes, good skill, and even AI can help with that. Is just, what we always do is craft a post first and then use some AI tech to kind of create a, opening line afterwards, that type of thing. So yeah, I'd say, yeah, if you know what the algorithms are doing, by all means, you create content to it. But it's a zero-sum game to chase algorithms, because guaranteed, as soon as you kind of think you've worked it out, it'll move on you.
Yeah, and let's just face it, ladies and gents. Like, unless you're a mind reader, and you by the way, if you know how the LinkedIn algorithm works, please let us know. We would like to know. We are all ears. We really are all ears. But yeah, I think a lot of it is speculation and people's opinions more than anything else. So glad we addressed that.
Yeah, just one to final off on that too is just coming back to what I was sharing earlier, is that even if you think you've worked it out, that part of it's relative to just how your audience reacts and what happens on your profile. So, I say tongue in cheek, if you think you've worked it out, let me know, because I know that it's such a small subset that it's practically worthless. So.
100%. Now, I want to talk about comments. because I think comments is a really interesting one on LinkedIn. And I'm not sure like what advice you give to a lot of your clients around commenting and stuff like that. But I had a really fascinating conversation with my really good friend Jasmine Alec last year actually. And and he created what we call the commenting matrix, which was very much featured in LinkedIn news and how it enhances your profile views. But then we've got should we say the battle in AI comments, of course, which really pisses me off this debate was around commenting. Commenting is a good thing. We think is a good thing, championing other people's content and posts and helping them gain traction and whatever it is. But then you've got the fine balance between, again, what you would call lazy people using AI to create comments, which is really easy. What's your take on the whole commenting thing? Should you do it? Should you not do it? Do you do it? Is more importantly, and what what are the pros and cons?
Yeah. So there's more pros than cons. There's no doubt about that. So 100% agree with Jasmine that you should be out there commenting on other people's content, and it does do wonders for your content in a couple of ways. One is that LinkedIn rewards people that are sort of contributing as much as they're taking. Yep. We put it that way. So but like you said, there's a big difference between a comment and what we call an insightful comment. So far better. There's a lot of the strategies that say comment on 100 people's posts a day. I don't know who has the time to do that. I don't have the time to do that. But what I find is I always go out looking for other people's content. In fact, I've got a whole list of people who I love their content. They're fantastic. And I go out, yours being, you see occasionally I comment on your stuff. And, but generally speaking, the old nice post, thanks for sharing. That's just rubbish. That doesn't add to your content. Doesn't help the person leaving the comment. But if you leave it an insightful comment with a really good point of view, or you don't even have to always agree with the person, as long as you put up a valid sort of counter argument. I can't tell you how many times I've had people where I've commented on someone else's post and someone else has read it, and then they've reached out and connected and said, "Oh, look, I saw your comment on Adam Strong's post yesterday, and I really liked your point of view. I checked out your profile. I'd love to connect." That happens all the time. But the reality is that, again, if we talk about algorithms we do know about, is that, you definitely will get better traction on profile views, your own contents sort of there, and your elevation to being, which is the holy grail, is to be considered a thought leader. As much as I hate the term, that's what everyone knows. That that's what you need to be doing is being and I call it an iconic identity, just simply because I'm over the term thought leader, and I think it's kind of overused these days, and there's a lot of wannabe thought leaders. If someone puts thought leader in their like profile headline or something like that, I just run a mile from that profile. But anyway, I'm getting on my soapbox. But
yeah, you are.
But yeah, so to answer your question, 100%. I do agree that you should be using insightful comments on other people's content on a regular basis. I probably spend 15 minutes a day that I'll go out, and I have this whole list of people that I love their content. I have them in a list where, I don't just rely on their stuff coming up in my feed. It usually does, but if it doesn't, I'll go out looking for it and I'll make a quality comment on their stuff.
I mean, I also do commenting myself, and I think one of the, for you guys that are listening in, by the way, if you really want to make life easy, you can actually use the search bar and save a search. And so that makes things are so much more easier with regards to, what you see on the feed, and rather than kind of trawling through people's individual profiles for content, save a search, save it as a bookmark on your URL, and then you can kind of go in there and kind of see what's happening on a regular basis. That really is a massive time saver from my perspective. Let's talk a little bit about outreach, because this is a conversation that most people don't talk about, is outreach. And I always thought and again, this is kind of maybe my own doing. I used to think that if I was going to get any traction and any leads into my business, I had to get to post more content. And that, I suppose, is a myth, but I know there are listeners out there that still believe that the more you post, the more traction you get. So let's talk a little bit about how that's not really the game, but maybe it is the game. I don't know. Working with some of your clients, what's your thoughts on that? What's their perceptions?
Yeah, so we've tested the heck out of this over 6 or 7 years now,
Yeah.
and I can tell you the sweet spot we find is to post between 3 and 4 times a week. That is more than enough. Never post twice on the same day. There's a whole bunch of reasons why. Just take my word for it. Spread it out a bit, but yeah, that's enough, because again, the idea here is that your content's not really going to be the thing that drives, and I get the same thing all the time. I get people contacting me saying, oh, look, I'm posting all this content and I'm spending all this time and energy and money, and I still don't get any leads. So your content's not designed to be and I know that there's all these people that talk about strategies that say, put up this content with this, killer lead magnet, say comment, Holy Grail or whatever, and you see they've got 500 people replying Holy Grail, and they say all their leads, because I know you're laughing and so am I, but I'm not saying that for some people that doesn't work to some degree, but real lead generation, long-term stuff that works over a very, very long period of time is outreach, but not necessarily in the content. The content's designed to position you as that industry sort of icon, that person of substance, so that when you do privately message people, they go, oh, well, I know Adam Strong. I've seen his content. I like what he talks about. I kind of resonate with what he's doing. So yeah, I'm open to that next step, as opposed to what's happening a lot of the time is people are, just posting innocuously and then all this crazy stuff, and then either do it in the post saying, come to my webinar, come to my, my event next week, come to, download my lead magnet, whatever. You're going, oh, but my content's not generating any leads. And the algorithm's working against you. As soon as you start posting like that, it's going to smash it. Whereas the real Holy Grail is to be positioned nicely so that when you do reach out to people, they know who you are, the old, know, like, trust phenomenon, that they go, oh, okay, well, I'm open to see what that's all about. And then, but there's a real strategy that has to sit behind how that's done.
I agree. Really briefly, actually, I know we kind of briefly just talked about outreach, because I know that some people are using, again, this is kind of a myth that I have thought that by creating content, I would get inbound inquiries, which unless you've got a following of 250,000 plus, it's probably not likely to happen. Let's be realistic. But then combining that with an outreach strategy, which I found particularly very valuable and useful. But for those that are doing a LinkedIn outbound strategy, or should we say that are thinking about it, but probably on the fence, what have you found? Number one, do you endorse it, an outbound strategy? And number two, what are some of the reasons why people don't do it?
Yeah. So do I endorse it? 100%, as long as it's done the right way. So that there's a big difference between, I'd say I see it done 90% of the time the wrong way and maybe 10% the right way. So the caveat being, yes, as long as you're doing it the right way. And the right way is to start with quality content that positions you as that person of substance. I'm not going to use that other word anymore, that thought leader thing. Sick of that word term. So yeah, there's that. And then the secondary part of it is, why do people not do it? Is there's imposter syndrome. They don't think they're worthy. They maybe tried it and got some negative kind of responses and things like that. They just don't have the time.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I'm so glad. It's really refreshing to hear, because I feel like and probably one of the reasons why I didn't implement outbound immediately was, number one, was because I thought that inbound, that's kind of my content was going to create the leads from that. But more importantly, I think there's just general fear of rejection that generally holds people back, right? And I think there's an element of mindset and psychology that really holds us back from, and yeah, you could be a bit of a douchebag and send out an outbound message, but we know that it's not you as a human being. It's just you kind of just, you just wouldn't speak to people in that particular way or manner. That's probably the reason why they're not getting traction. But do you feel like there's this mindset shift that needs to happen as well?
There is, and it is, one of it, you hit a good nail on the head there with fear of rejection. I've had clients even, where they have an effective outbound strategy working, and it's working for months, and all of a sudden they get one person with a really negative kind of reply,
Yeah.
and they go, "Oh, I don't want to do this anymore. I got this person who hates me now. They even unfollowed me, whatever, disconnected from me." And they go, "Yeah, but that's 1 out of 1,000. What about the 1,000 times you did it that it kind of generated the right result?" So, it's look, in fairness, with outbound, you probably have to be a little bit thick-skinned, toughen up, buttercup. It's and keep in mind that when people respond negatively, you don't know what's going on in their life. They could just have something really bad happening that day. You could send them the same message next week and they'd be sending you a love note. So it's just keep in mind that outbound is a little bit of a numbers game, but you do it often enough, you're going to get some negative responses, or people disconnect from you and stuff like that. But that's usually more about them than yourself.
I agree.
As long as you're doing it the right way. So stick at it. But you've got to have a real strategy around it. There's got to be there's got to be a logical pathway that people are going. That outbound can't be buy my stuff. It's like,
no, exactly.
That's not going to work. Our outbound is always about events. So as you mentioned, we run these pretty big events. The only message anyone ever gets from me on LinkedIn is, and I'm sure you've got them, "Hey, Adam, I got this event on next week. It's all about ABC. Would you like to come along as my guest?" And I get most people, well, some people say no thanks. Some people ignore it. But I get hundreds and hundreds of people saying, "Thank you. I really appreciate you reaching out." So it's all because they've seen my content, they know what I'm about, and they kind of buy into that. Not asking them to do anything but turn up to an event. And sure, on the event, we're doing the sales process, but that next step just has to get them to move off LinkedIn and into a next step, or it could be that you've got like I love like the scorecard assessments and things like that. Now, if they're done really, really well, and what I mean, let me say what's bad, is where someone fills out the assessment and all it does is gather data for you to pitch to. That's not helping people. If you have one that gives them a lot of insights, gives them, opens their eyes to things that, where, the value proposition is two ways. You're getting data, but they're getting some insights into something, and they work fantastically well.
Love that. Some good stuff. Now, guys, we are coming towards the end of our conversation. Me and Adam could talk here for hours about LinkedIn, by the way, because we basically it's our playground, and, but I know I'm very mindful of Adam's time and also of your time as well. So I suppose in a nutshell, just in conclusion, because we've got a really diverse amount of listeners around the world here, all on a different LinkedIn journey. Some's at the very beginning, others which are very highly established, rinsing all of the great features and stuff like that. What are your final thoughts or comments based on our conversation? Because we've actually covered a lot of traction, haven't we, in today's conversation? Is there any final thoughts?
Yeah. So the first one would be like you've got to look at LinkedIn as a long game. It's not like you're going to see results in the next 30 days or something like that. The people who truly get traction are doing like what Adam's doing, being kicking the can on here for a long period of time, working out what works, what doesn't, adjusting. There's no the way, and I guarantee even if you find the way, it'll stop working after a while. You got to adjust your way. So that's the reality of, and it's, to be honest, it's not just LinkedIn. That's social media. That's just the way it works.
Yeah, true.
And so it's a long game, and it's all about authority and integrity. It's if you're seen as a marketer, you're positioned as a marketer. If you're seen as an authority, then there's the world is your oyster.
Tell us a little bit about the webinars that you guys are doing, because I'm a big fan of them. So tell us a little bit more about how that's evolved, and tell us when the next one is.
Yeah, so our next one's on June 10th. We run it twice on the day, so depending on where you are in the world, there's hopefully a time zone that works. We get people from about 20 different countries that join each one of them. It's a bit of a beast. It's been going for quite some time now, and really what we're talking about, is all the things that have changed in the last. We run it practically every 10 weeks, and really what it's all about is all the things that have changed in the last 10 weeks. My insights on where things are going and what you should focus on and things like that. So we get lots of people that keep coming back to it time after time. I think we got like 1,400 reviews just literally on that event now. So
wow.
it's well worth an hour of your time. We send you the recording so you can go back over it. It's pretty fast paced. We go through stuff at a bit of a breakneck speed, but it's like you said, you got an hour to get in a whole bunch of stuff, and
absolutely
well worth coming along to.
Definitely well worth looking. I highly endorse it. I've attended many times, and actually it's worth attending, even if it is just for an hour of your time, guys. Just for the ninja tip, they have a ninja tip at the very end, which Adam he doesn't record the ninja tip, by the way. That's the reason why you have to attend, right?
That's it.
So there you go. But listen, great conversations, buddy, and it's been really good to catch up.
It has been, and let's not leave it 4 years before the next one.
No, let's not do that. For you guys that are listening in, we've covered a lot of ground on the LinkedIn game. I hope that you enjoyed it, first of all. And second of all, make sure that you go check out the webinar links and also Adam's LinkedIn profile, which we'll put below if you're in need of some LinkedIn strategies, optimization, that kind of stuff. And, Adam's agency very much specializes in helping in the marketing game of LinkedIn, because I think he he's good at what he does. Like he is really, he runs an award-winning agency, so he must be doing something right. So what I was going to say to you guys, hope you've even found it insightful. One thing that I would say, actually two things, for you guys that are looking, if you are, well, I won't use the word thought leader because Adam's here. If you are someone that is within your industry, an established founder or business owner looking to scale up and exit, we're actually going to be launching a new community with like-minded founders of being able to really level up and gain some traction there. So if you're interested in learning how to scale and exit faster, we have a wait list of like-minded people that would like to come and join. There's a link below. Check it out. And the last thing I was going to say is, this is the first time that you're listening to the podcast. Congratulations. Hope that it's not been too disappointing. Please head over to Apple or Spotify, leave a review, or you can leave a comment over on YouTube, which will have the video up on there. So, Adam, thanks very much. Really appreciate your time today.
Absolute pleasure, my friend.
And for you guys, oh, by the way, I was going to ask you, we go to the same barbers. I don't know how we do it.
Yeah, well, as I said, we're all ears, and I was talking about you and I. So you look like my older brother.
Love it. Guys, listen, hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you soon again on The Business Strategist. Take care. We'll see you soon. Cheers now. Bye-bye.
Rinse knows that greatness takes time, but so does laundry. So Rinse will take your laundry and hand deliver it to your door expertly cleaned. And you can take the time pursuing your passions. Time once spent sorting and waiting, folding and queuing, now spent challenging and innovating and pushing your way to greatness. So pick up the Irish flute or those calligraphy pens or that daunting beef Wellington recipe card and leave the laundry to us. Rinse. It's time to be great.